Alrighty, guys, here we are, just kicking it off here live with another PDOCS Livestream series episode, Thursday afternoon. Some of you guys saw my post maybe talking about this. I think it's flown a little under the radar, and this is something I've been saving for a while, guys. Well, to an extent, something I've kind of some new frameworks and techniques that I have developed, some that I've been studying, and just something I've been putting a lot of emphasis on that I haven't really shared with a lot of people outside of 3 private clients. Only have seen some of the things I'm going to cover here today. Other than that, it's going to be brand new for pretty much everybody watching. So again, guys, what I'm here to cover, as I talked about there, we're going to talk about how to make money with sales presentations. More importantly, structures and frameworks, what works well and what doesn't and why. And, it's really going to come down to 3 key aspects, and within that, I'm going to expound and cover different areas. But let's just talk about, what brought this to be this week's topic. Primarily is I do a lot with sales, guys. I run, the sales lab. I manage our audience lab sales team, which is growing and hitting, record-breaking numbers month in and month out. I work with a lot of people in consulting capacities. So I see a lot of different sales presentations, angles, hooks, a lot of different methods, a lot of different approaches. More importantly, what works and what doesn't and why. And I've just kind of streamlined that down. So I just want to kind of dive right into that here pretty soon. As you know, or any of you, that have been following me or seen the updates on our audience lab sales teams, we've been hitting consistent 6-figure months. We've been bringing in 70, 80, 90K in MRR per month, with, well over 6 figures collected month in and month out. And we're continuing upon that trend. Part of what I'm going to cover today goes into that. Not all of it's applicable because we're going to cover different objectives, different approaches, and different strategies and tactics for different businesses, different price points, different offers, right? So we can try to make it relevant to everybody. So guys, I know streaming to the group and not putting a lot of emphasis or promotion, I'm not sure how many people are watching. I'll say this a couple times, but as we go, I just would like you to drop any thoughts, any takeaways, or any questions that you have, or anything you want me to cover in more depth, and I'll be checking back the comments here on my phone, incrementally as we go throughout the presentation here. But let's just get diving right into it, right? So let's just kick off with the 3 main stages or phases to properly pull this off, and then we'll dive into those in a little more depth, right? So I hate how Google Docs separates it onto the next page, but you guys can see the 3 there now on my screen. The 3 stages to pull this off properly, and this is what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to elaborate. Now, number 1 is packing a room, filling a room, putting butts in the seats. And that doesn't mean, a physical conference room or a stage. It could be that, but it could be a Zoom room, right? It could be any type of online software. It could be webinars, could be whatever. It's drawing people in. And as we'll talk about a little, this is the one that is probably most vague and the hardest one to cover in a general type of training like this, because there's so many different strategies to acquire people, right? To get them to opt in, to show up to an event, to show up to a seminar, to show up to a workshop, yada, yada, yada. We could talk a little about those, but that's not the main emphasis today, is how to pack or fill a Zoom room. We can do something on that, and I'd love to hear in the comments if that's, if you want to talk more about that. That kind of ties right into number 2 as well, and number 2 is going to tie into everything. It's how to speak the right words and how to say the right thing, right? And that's what's super important. We're going to cover this as I go forward, and I hope I don't get redundant, but it's about simplicity, number 1. It's about getting that messaging dialed in. You guys may have saw a couple months back, we ran a recent 5-day challenge all about mastering your messaging, and everybody that joined that challenge did a great job within 5 days launching their new messaging, understanding how to create effective messaging that converts. So guys, we still have that that 5-day Master Your Messaging Challenge available for a discounted rate. If you didn't join live, we have the evergreen version for, I think it's $74 right now, so I can send that to you if anybody really wants to dial in their messaging and go through a 5-day challenge or workshop where you can really dial that in, right? Because this is important. But more so, I'm going to give you a framework on how to do this that, again, I've only shared with 3 people to this point, and I just kind of coined this recently and put it all together. As you guys probably know, and I don't want to take the credit for everything, and I'll even say in here, what's mine and what's not. But a lot of this, I put certain words to things and put it in a certain framework. But most of this is stuff that other people are taught, more importantly, that other people are doing. I mean, that's where I came up with this. I get on to calls with other business owners, some of my mentors and people that are hitting bigger numbers than me, and they're showing me what they're doing to sell certain products, what their sales stages are, how to craft their offer, their messaging. So everything we're going to cover in here. But number one, how do we get people to show up? Number two, how to say the right thing to that crowd. And number three, how to make the perfect offer. And we'll go through the four styles of pitches that you should be using, that pretty much everybody's using. And I'll talk about which one is right for each of you. That is by no means mine. That's just what's happening in the industry when people are using this right. These are the four styles of pitches, and you guys will all know these. You've all seen these, whether you've created some yourself, whether you've opted into some of them, what have you, right? So we're going to dive into that more. Making the perfect offer, I'm going to talk about as well. And we'll start a little with, making that perfect offer. And then I'm going to circle back to that because as you see, it's number 3. So I'm going to have some more info when I scroll down. But all that really means right off the bat, guys, and again, keep things super simple. Another thing I'm going to say probably a couple times is clear over clever. Sometimes we try to get too tricky or too clever with our messaging, and we lose how clear it is. And clarity is much more important than clever. Now, it's great to add in that intrigue and entertainment value to things, but not if it's at the expense of sacrificing how clear your message is, right? And then again, so making the offer, the best way to think about that is just how do I lay out the best path to success, right? And then the offer, as we're going to talk about, is kind of the vehicle to that path. So guys, I think I've been saying this to private clients and students, and some of you guys may have heard this, but let's just say we have two big circles in the sky, circle A and circle B, and there's a distance between them. Well, your perfect offer is the vehicle that gets them from A to B in the fastest path, right? No matter what that is, weight loss, ad management, coaching, consulting, other agency services, done-for-you service, standard service providers, home services, on and on and on, right? It's basically relevant to every niche and industry. And if you can do these 3 things, and again, this is very vague here. It's why I want to dial into it more, and more so 2 and 3. Again, that's where I'm going to dive in depth. But if you can really just focus on these 3 things for your business, your offer, and your sales presentation and your sales process, how do I get people to attend? Really dialing in, make sure I'm saying the right thing and speaking the right message to this audience. And then how do I lay out the perfect vehicle for them to get there in the shortest path, right? And let's dive through those. So, as I talked about above, and I'll kind of highlight as I'm going through, number 1 is the most difficult to cover in a general training like this, right? And I discussed that briefly. Number 2, and this is the framework I was talking about for how we can dial in that message right. And even in my Messaging Mastery Masterclass, I didn't lay this out because I didn't have it finalized and I wasn't teaching it yet, and I hadn't done all my research, and I hadn't actually used all of this myself. I don't like to teach something just on theory. I don't think I've ever taught anything just off theory that I haven't done myself, that I haven't replicated, and that I haven't taught to other people and see it working. This one you guys are just on the ground level of, but this is probably being taught in other formats somewhere, I would think. I haven't seen it laid out like this, but this isn't also brand new. I've just kind of coined the 4C framework. Helps if I can speak it right. I don't need to name a framework that I can't even enunciate properly. But as you guys see, captivating, customized, certain, and clear. And let's dive into those and make sure we have clarity. Now, I gave a quick little description with each one, but I'm going to elaborate upon those here. So captivating, right, is just another word for entertaining, for how to intrigue, for how to entice, for how to pique curiosity. But I would say captivating and entertaining are the two best words to describe how to do this. And this is where a lot of people miss, right? Now, I don't try to do that near as much on my live streams like this where I'm screen sharing, because you guys are pretty much looking at a document. Now, I could be using more entertaining software and like whiteboard stuff, which I certainly could do. But I think more so when you're doing what I'm talking about, when you're saying your message to a large audience on a very structured process. I'm getting them there to ultimately, lay out this next step, whatever that is. Is that another seminar? Is that another webinar? Is that an actual offer right now? Is that a future offer? Is that a freebie? But what is the main objective right now? So where I was going with that is like more so on, and again, I'm really bad at this, to be honest, in terms of like what you guys see in aesthetics and production value. But I think YouTube is a place where you get the chance to, and I would focus more on the entertaining than maybe doing a live stream to a group of business owners. Not to say that we shouldn't be always mixing that in, but that also has a lot to do with your personality, how you speak. You can be captivating and entertaining without a bunch of gimmicks and aesthetics, but definitely the market also likes that higher production value and the more eye candy, without that being a phrase of looking at the opposite sex or an attractive person, but eye candy in terms of entertaining, what's getting your eyes glued to the screen, right? And people use a lot of over the top stuff. What we used to call would be a pattern interrupt, right? I guess we still call it that. I just don't see it referred to that as often anymore. But how to captivate and entertain, and I think we overlook that a lot when we're creating our products. And again, that goes back to simplicity. You don't have to be over elaborate. You just have to be able to stand out, which we talk about a lot with messaging, right? Customized. So this is to feel like this message that we're laying out to this particular audience right now is customized to be delivered to them. You could call it customized, you could call it individualized, you could call it personalized, but they're sitting there listening to this thinking, damn, this is exactly what I need to be hearing right now. So how do we do that? And that goes back a bit to what I talked about, with dialing in your messaging and understanding what goes into compelling, effective message that converts. Simple, clear, concise, to the point, and then we get into a little bit of the clever, right? But to feel as if the presentation or message was designed for them specifically. They're sitting there going, damn, I needed to hear this right now. I needed to see this. I needed whatever it is, right? Certain. So certain, again, I could use a couple other words, undeniable, unquestionable, irrefutable. But as I say in the caption here, often when people ask me what I sell, I reply with one simple word, and that's what I am normally selling, is certainty, right? I'm selling certainty in the efficacy or the effectiveness of said product, or the legitimacy of said product or service, right? So that could be a lot of different things, right? But how do you make your solution, make it so in their mind they're certain that this is what they need? There's no doubt. It's undeniable. It's unquestionable, right? Somebody is certain that, oh my God, this is the best way to get there. And guys, I could make a million different examples. Most of you probably know in number 3 what we're about to scroll down to, and I'll talk about a little more there. I've crafted well over 300 offers for our companies, more so for clients. Obviously, we haven't launched or put out 300 offers, but over 300 high ticket offers for clients. Most of them came through our PDOCS flagship program. Some have just hired me outside of that to do offer building sessions. One guy earlier this week, which I taught a little of this is one of those 3 I was talking about, paid me my hourly fee for just an hour of consulting to dive in, not to his offer, which was already going, but he was having trouble with his sales process and conversions, and what we're going to get into in the next segment below. So maybe I should have referenced that there, but it was also relative here. But yeah, what I mean by that is what I've talked about a lot with PDOCS and with knowledge gaps and transitional messaging is how do we get somebody to see our solution as, number one, certain and unquestionable that this will get them to their desired goal or result, right? But at the same time, how do we also get them to look at our solution as the unexpected solution? Like, hey, what Ray just said to me, nobody's really told me before. That totally makes sense. How do I find out more? And that's kind of where the brain goes, right? And then lastly, this presentation and your message has to be clear. Again, we talked about this. Clear over clever all day long, people. I cannot say that enough. Too many people are trying to get too clever, and they don't realize that it's actually probably crippling their business a lot more than it's benefiting their business. Clever could get you 1 or 2 deals, where not being clear could lose you 30 or 40 deals, right? So, weigh the options. Now, again, great messaging can do both and should do both, but you always want to get the clear down first, and we'll talk a little more about that here going forward. So guys, again, don't know how many people are watching. I'm going to tune into the phone real quick and just repeat one more time. If anybody's watching that wants me to elaborate on anything, has any questions about this, wants me to go in more depth, please leave a comment. I will go check them here periodically. Looks like there's only about 3 people on live. I don't see any current comments right now. Great. That's great for now. Let me know if you have any. And also, this document, just so you guys know, right when I'm done, I'm just not going to do it while I'm here speaking, but right when I'm done, you guys go back and look at this comment section if you want this document. Again, it's nothing super elaborate, but it's just everything laid out so you don't have to copy as much, or I can just send it to you or whatever, right? So I will go drop this in the chat, and if you guys are watching on YouTube where I upload these replays, this document will be there in the description, as well as I'll drop the link for that the other messaging mastery challenge that I said that we've run in the past if people need more help, dialing this stuff in. But by all means, use what I'm doing here for free and take something away and try to implement it immediately, if not more than one. I always say on these guys, take away at least one thing. This one, there's probably more than one thing, right? Because again, at the top, what I covered is these three things that would tile this all in. So, one at a time, right? First figure out, and if you already can pack rooms, but you're just not saying the right thing or not making the right offer or not converting, then let me focus on 2 and 3. Or if I'm doing, which one's most important, that's where you start. But there's probably going to be more than one takeaway from this. So again, number 2, proven and tested framework that I've recently kind of come up with, which I call the 4C framework, that I've seen work over and over and over again. If we can be captivating, if we can customize this to feel like it's specifically for that person on the other end of the room, of the Zoom line, whatever, if we can deliver certainty and it's undoubtable that our solution can deliver the result, and if we can lay that out in a clear message that they understand, right? Actually, I saw a study, and this is just a good analogy away and a mainstream thing, and I'm not talking politics here, but what I did see one person say, and this was back to the 2016 election, when they said Hillary's campaign verbiage and messaging, when it was analyzed, was on about a 12th grade reading level. Donald Trump's was on a 3rd grade reading level. So you guys can make whatever jokes you want or say whatever you want, but more people were clear with his. It was very simple. Immigration, build a wall, right? Nothing complicated. Things like that. So that's just another good example where clear was better than clever, was better than complicated. I go simple over complicated just as often as I go clear over clever, right? So number 3, although it's somewhat self-explanatory in the beginning, like, hey, have a perfect offer. We've all heard that. Have the irresistible offer, offer stack, value stack. I don't even think all that stuff's relevant. I think the industry's a little flooded on these irresistible offers, ever since a certain book came out, within the last couple of years. And that's really watered down the industry. And it's also created a lot of kind of half-ass offers, for lack of a better phrase. I can't really sugarcoat that one. There's just a lot of BS offers with huge guarantees, doesn't deliver results, and then they can't even afford to pay off the guarantee. But that's a whole nother cycle. But there are people that they don't know what to offer. They don't have an offer. They have a skill set, but they're not sure how to package it up, right? So we can help with a lot of that. Hit me up. I have an offer building masterclass, which should have all the tools, resources, and training, so you can do that on your own. But I'm also going to cover at the end of the presentation here, when I get down to the bottom, I'm going to cover ways to craft an offer out of what I'm delivering here today. Other options if you don't currently have an offer or a product. And really, a formula for vetting out a product. What I mean by that is a lot of people will build this great product or thing, but then they'll try to go sell it after they've built it and they have trouble. So I'm going to show you a different way to look at that. But again, as I talked about earlier, the offer is about your vehicle and how it's the best path to success, result, outcome, etc. What is that? Is that losing 10 pounds? Is that lowering your cost per lead in acquisition? Is that increasing the conversions and your close percentage? But what is the result, the outcome that would make this a success for your product? And then how do I create that vehicle, right? So I'll dive into that. We'll dive into that right now, because I'll do that before I go down to the pitch styles. But number 1, what you can do if you don't have an offer is you don't have to. So when you're speaking to people and you're getting them to a room, to a Zoom call, to a 15-minute, pre-qualifying or triage session or whatever you want to call it, you don't have to talk much about the offer. Matter of fact, you really shouldn't talk about anything about the offer. You should be offering help and solutions. And then when you get on that call, you're going to diagnose and see common trends when they're like, hey, if I had this, that would be ideal right now. I'm stuck with this. So people are actually going to start to tell you, just by getting in conversations, what type of offer that they're looking for, what type of problems they're having, and what you can craft. If that doesn't fit within your realm of expertise, you can find someone that is and refer people over. Partner with him and bring the people in and split the revenue. There's all kinds of things you can do. The other thing you can do is offer other people's products that you know are great and you believe in. A lot of people have affiliate programs, and I'm not a big affiliate guy, as you guys know, but we have a product at our Audience Lab company where a lot of people don't have a great offer right off the bat. We give them our platform, our deliverable. We're like, go sell our stuff at this price price, and we'll show you how to sell it, right? So we teach them everything they need. There's all kinds of ways to do that. I was just giving you a couple examples, but there's lots of great products and offers out there that somebody would be happy to set up an affiliate account, that would be happy to refer with you. If you were just starting out, I guarantee if they had the expertise, but they weren't great at the marketing and the acquisition and starting the conversations, they'd be happy to split 50-50 if you do that aspect and they just deliver the result. So there's all kinds of ways we can package offers. Easier for me to give you guys more detailed suggestions and recommendations if I, was talking to anybody one-on-one and I knew their background, their experience, their skill set, their expertise, their likes, their passions, and what they could do, right? So you guys have probably been hearing this for years. There's actually, when I first started in the industry, I saw 6 of these. I've really limited it down to these 4 that I see to be most effective. But this is all we really have to do with our offer, out of these 4 things right here. Any one of these, right? If your offer does more of them, 2, 3, all 4, probably even better. But maybe we could just offer to number 1, do it for them, right? Number 2, do it with them, hold their hand. So done for you is usually agencies, service-based businesses where they call you up and you go do the service for them, whatever it is, right? Done with you is more of a coaching program, sometimes consulting where you're kind of holding their hand, walking them through it. Or I can do the same result faster. I can do it easier. I can do it in less time. I can do it with less effort, right? All those things. So if we could just take those 4 parameters, and even if you start with only 1, that's where I would start crafting an offer. How can I take this out of someone's hands and do it for them? The world is becoming more and more done for you to the point where every meal can be delivered to your front door, every grocery you order. Like, there's so much stuff that is now done for people. People are always willing to pay for that, right? I mean, dog walking businesses, come and walk my dog. I love walking my dog. I would never pay for it, but there are plenty of people that would and do, and I get it, right? So, when you do this part right, when you craft the offer right, again, more so when you're getting feedback and but everything I just talked about, when you feel like you have that dialed in, you craft the offer right, when this is done right, it really only leaves you one way to fail, and that's you showed them the wrong path, right? I talked about, A to B, and our vehicle is the clearest path. So if we show them the wrong path, meaning it might not be the wrong path, that probably means we didn't dial in these 4 C's up here. If they're not seeing it's the right path, we probably haven't captivated them and held them in long enough to even see that. They probably didn't feel like, hey, this was designed for me. It might be like, I kind of need that, but this isn't really for me, right? You might not have delivered certainty that, hey, this is the number 1 solution, or it might not have just came across clearly, right? So a lot of times, we just didn't say the right thing, or we just showed the wrong path, right? So that's the only way it's going to fail if you craft this right. Now, the next aspect is kind of equally important when it comes to converting. And as I say here, the next aspect, but by no means is this my intellectual property, right? This is what everybody's using. I just broke it down and kind of figured out which one's going where, and actually saw a training very similar to this. I think another person dropped last week where he covered some similar stuff above, but he definitely covered this specifically. I think, again, we use different verbiage. It's funny because over the years, he and I have crafted a lot of different messages and offers, and it seems like I do one just a couple weeks before him, or him just a couple weeks before me. It's very, very weird because none of that has been planned out. I don't think he's ever copied my stuff. I don't think I've ever copied his stuff, but it's just ironic how simultaneously we go to market with very similar trainings and products. Not that it happens every time. That would obviously be a big red flag, but it's happened, God, 4 or 5 times with different offers over the last 4 years where I'm like, man, he just launched this. We were just about to do this, or we launched this and he just launched something similar. I'm like, oh, that's funny. But again, this is simply what's currently being used by the successful entrepreneurs and business owners leading their respective industries right now. I mean, this is bar none. This is vetted data where I've done this. So there's 4 main pitch styles, guys, and we probably all use these at one point and another. What I want to try to decipher is which is the right one for when, for what offer, and why is that, right? So the micro offers, or the one-liners as I call them, this other guy, when he did this, now I definitely remember, he referred to this as the elevator pitch. Certainly another good analogy, or good word there. But that's really just like, your I help statement, right? I help copywriters write VSLs in 1/4 of the time, right? Whatever. We all know the main kind of formulas for this that I've been talking about for years and teaching is kind of I help X, do Y without, big obstacle, right? I personally, my one-liners have been better when I've embedded a little bit of humor in there. I help X do Y. I basically like to say who I help and my expertise, and then just kind of like a offhanded bit of humor that only my market would understand. And you guys have probably heard me say this. Like one of my one-liners or bios in the past, this was more for a bio, so these could be a little different, but a lot of times people's one-liner is their bio on Facebook or whatever, that 101 characters. And a good one I had years ago was, I help people level up. I help folks level up their business. No, I help service-based businesses level up organically without needing a Russell Brunson like ad budget. That one actually performed really well. But these are very simple, right? I help you drop your CPL and CPA by using first-party in-market intent-driven data. Whatever, just quick little one-liner approaches. And those usually don't necessarily lead to sales, right? Those are usually your intro into a conversation and then maybe getting to one of these others. But we all use that at one point in our stage, whether it's, in our bio when somebody first becomes in our ecosystem and first becomes aware of us, and that's kind of how they know us very often. And again, I have a whole tutorial on these bios and taglines and one-liners with frameworks on that I've run through. All my DM setters and my PDOCS CAM private students get access to that stuff. Number two is the more short form. This is usually about a 5 to 10 minute VSL, and these are best for selling low to mid ticket items or to send to a call. So if you have a high ticket funnel, you're selling something, again, that number is, subjective. Let's just say you have something. What I've found is once you get above about 1997, about 2K online, it's much more difficult to sell without going to a sales call. Not to say it's not possible, it certainly is, but I would just say, generally speaking, as a rule, that's kind of the cutoff. So if your product is under 2K, and even those, again, you would have to test. I think this really works best for your, 197 to 997, I would say, is the ideal price point for number two of your offer to be able to use this and sell with it. What you can do is a 5 to 10 minute VSL, again, where your pitch is covering my 4C framework above, and you have that dialed in, taking them right to an order page or a landing page for, again, anywhere from, say, 197 to 997. Or it could be that, and then it takes them to my send to a call, book a call landing page, right, if you're in more of a high ticket. So I would still utilize this in almost every offer, regardless if it's that 197 to 997 and I'm just driving to a checkout page, or if it's in my high ticket booking funnel or whatever. I utilize this, and I utilize multiple videos. You guys have seen my micro commitment process. There's usually a minimum of 2 resources or videos they're receiving throughout that. In this case, this would likely be the first. So and guys, a lot of these very similarly correlate to the price point, right? Like a micro, if you were to ever sell with a one-liner, which I can't even think of a time where I did. Now, one-liners have certainly booked me call and got me attention, no doubt, 100%. I don't think I've ever sold anything from there, and if so, I would have to say it would have to be under $100. This is, again, more, you're saying 197 to 997. Now, the more we go down, I would say, generally speaking, the higher price point you can begin to charge. And I would say number 3 is probably the most common, but again, it would depend on industry. If you're selling a 197 or a 497 software, you're probably not sending them to an hour plus long webinar. But yes, number 3 is long form, right? And I categorize that as basically anything an hour plus. Could be a webinar, could be a masterclass, could be a speaking event on stage, whatever, right? And that is your long form resource where you're going to be delivering a ton of value. And generally speaking, again, higher ticket, you're probably going from the webinar right into a call booking, right? And when we get that 4C framework dialed in our messaging, and we can put that into you can use that framework for 5 to 10 minute videos. You can use it an hour long plus. The structure's a little different in terms of how much you're talking about each thing and how much depth you go into, obviously, but it's still that same framework regardless, guys. So crafting these type of events, you could be hosting them live weekly, you could be making them evergreen, but once you know you have it dialed in and it's converting and it's doing its objective, again, could be an hour-long webinar to a landing page, hour-long masterclass to a follow-up conversation, which leads to a call booking, which I think in my live stream 2 weeks ago, I actually screen shared and showed you guys a conversation where I did exactly that. Maybe if I get a minute here before the end, again, I'll double check in a minute if there's any more questions. Maybe when I get to the end, I can go back and show that, but I had a guy go through an hour and 30-minute masterclass. He come back saying, I love that. That was exactly for me. He basically said exactly what I said above. He was like, that was clear. That was exactly what I needed. I believe in this. Everything I said, he reiterated his message, and he bought from me almost immediately after. So he watched the masterclass, went to a call, one call closed in under 30 minutes. So yeah, exactly. And then the last one, and the one that Some people like best, and the one that you might be able to do best at scale, but I also think is a bit of the most complex in terms of what you need to really execute this properly. But workshops, multi-day events, challenges, seminars, whatever you want to call it, any type of multi-day events, right? So we could call that lots of different things. But multi-day events are usually either a free or an entry-level event. You could be running a 3-day freebie, lose 3 pounds in 3 days challenge, whatever it is, right? Could be a, craft copy in under 3 days challenge, whatever. Could be could be $100, 5-day challenge, whatever it is. Usually you're using that event to deliver value, to build rapport, to do everything we talked about above. You're going to still do the same framework, this 4C framework, over the course of a few days. You just have more time with them. What this really does is it allows you to take somebody from relatively unaware or relatively new to your ecosystem and what you do, your solutions, your expertise, your products, etc. Take them into a multi-day event to grab their attention, not charge a lot up front, make them believe all those things I said, and then sell them into your back-end high-ticket, higher ticket stuff, right? So what this really allows you to do is 2 things. Number 1, shorten your sales cycle significantly, because if somebody just came into your ecosystem and say they watch a 5-minute VSL and they weren't quite ready to book a call or make a buying decision or yada, 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 a lot of times it's a few months before that person really circles back. Maybe they just get the perfect post that's composed for them. Maybe they see a new video or a new ad and they opt back in. But what the workshops or the challenges and the multi-day events allow you to do is really shorten that sales cycle down to however many days that event is. You could shorten a 6-month sales cycle down to 3, 5, 7 days, whatever it is. And then they are much more likely to buy into your high ticket stuff, where maybe if you tried, any of the above 3 to get them into a back-end high ticket 10K mastermind, whatever we're talking about here, might have took months and months, where now you could probably shorten that cycle down. The other thing it does, secondly, is it's a way to eliminate sales calls for your teams. Now, I haven't really had to do that too much now. I've eliminated myself, unless I voluntarily jump back in to take some, or I'm crafting a new offer and building out stuff. But I generally, build out sales teams and I have reps taking calls. Now, there are certain times in certain businesses where that's not going to make the most sense, or where there's so many variables because of a sales team or overhead or whatever. So the workshops and the challenges actually allow you to sell big high ticket stuff without any sales teams. You could basically just run a workshop, go to a call with yourself afterwards for 30 minutes, and you're going to close the deal or you're not. It's going to be very, very quick and evident. And even that 30-minute call, I think that's just as you're getting the hang of this. Once you actually have a routine down to your workshops or your multi-day events, your challenges, you're going to have kind of a funnel process in there that can probably convert them pretty much automatically, and we could talk more about that as well. But that's kind of everything I wanted to cover in a nutshell. I know I said there's a couple things I might circle back to. I have about 10 minutes more here. So first, I'm just going to dive in one more time and see if anybody had any comments or questions. And then I'll just go over a couple things in a little bit more depth. 1 second here, guys. It's as you probably know, when you're running a Facebook Live. I only got a couple likes, a couple people watching, no questions, no comments. Great. That means I'm being very clear and concise, obviously, which is excellent. And obviously, again, I think I mentioned this. I didn't do a lot to promote this, but I did drop a lot of new stuff here. I think there's a lot of value in here, and I think guys, I always like to say, and I said this earlier, so I don't want to be redundant, but have one takeaway, right? So you might want more than one. In this first section, let's say, which one do I need to focus on the most right now of these 3? I would start there, right? And then when I get down to here, what I just covered these 4, I'd say, which one is right for my business model, my price point, or which one do I want to start to develop and get more information on? Because number 1, reach out to me. I can give you some more insight specifically to the one you're working on. Number 2, once you really identify this, you can dive into other people already doing this well and kind of funnel hack their system and see how they're executing it. Sometimes we have to open our wallet and dive into some of those things. It's not rare for me to dive into somebody's $97 5-day challenge. And usually it's not because I want the topic. Usually it's because I'm funnel hacking them to see how their whole process goes and how the upsell is at the end. I'm more joining those things now for research, whereas years ago I was joining more as a student for the actual topic or content, right? And there's no right or wrong way. People spend their money however you want, right? But yeah, so I would say your other thing is to really identify which pitch style is more effective for your business and what you need to dial into to really optimize that for conversions and for best effectiveness. But everything still comes down to, guys, making the right offer, always offering, always be talking about success, results, outcomes. That's what people are paying for. They're not paying for your coaching inner circle mastermind. They're paying for the extra 30K a month. They're paying for, the 50 pounds less. They're paying for what's the result? What's the outcome? What would make this program or this vehicle here, this offer, a success for your viewer? And once you know that, it makes it very easy to craft your deliverables and your fulfillment to deliver that, as well as to set the expectations to make it a great client experience where they're sending you when they're sending you and referring you to other people. But it really always comes down to saying the right thing. And I think this 4C framework, if you guys can embody this and figure out what I'm missing, right? Because there's probably a lot of you guys watching. I'm not saying there's a lot watching right now. I know there's not, but of the percentage of people watching right now, what I would say is, like, how many of you guys? I gotta think everybody watching right now is at least not doing one of these very well, or maybe they don't even really have a framework that they're actually crafting their message and their pitch off. Because, right, number 2 is speak, say the right thing, the messaging, and this is the 4C framework that encompasses that messaging into a pitch that actually converts and does it over and over again for multiple 8-9 figure earners and on. So that's what I wanted to drop here, guys, today. I would love to hear your best takeaway. Drop something down in the comments with what you learned, what was new to you here today. And again, this document, if anybody wants it, YouTube, it's in the description. On Facebook, I'm going to go drop that down in the comments under the thread right now. Didn't see any questions. Guys, everybody have yourself a great holiday season. I know a week from today is Thanksgiving. No, I won't be doing my live stream. No, I won't be doing my PDOCS cam session that day. I have the whole day blocked out and made the announcements accordingly, and I'll be off with family. Hopefully everybody's doing the same. I will see you back here the following Thursday with a new expert guest speaker that I'm pretty excited about, and I knew they weren't going to be back in the States and able to do this. They were traveling on speaking seminars and arrangements all throughout November, and we're going to be back until after Thanksgiving. So I got to double confirm, but I'm 99% sure that person is still on to be our guest speaker when we come back 2 weeks from today, that would be. So everybody, drop your biggest takeaway, any questions you had, anything else I can help you with, and everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy some time with your family and eat some great food. We'll see you guys all soon.